Welcome back to the channel. It's from the Park One. We showcase amateur athletes and amateur news every day. If you're a player or coach would like an interview, DM me for collaboration. If you're loving the content, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Today we're talking about the women's top 25 on the AP poll, and coming at number one is UConn. UConn with a record of 6-0, and they're led by AZ Fudd, who's averaging 21 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. And Sarah Strong is averaging 18.8 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 5 assists. And coming in at number two is South Carolina with a record of 6-0, and they're led by George Edwards, who's averaging 19.8 points, 6.0 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and Tanya Lawson is averaging 18.2 points, 4 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. Coming at number three is UCLA with a record of 6-0, and they're led by Lauren Betts, who's averaging 15.2 points, 7.5 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and Kiki Rice, who's averaging 14 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. Coming in at number four is Texas with a record of 5-0, and they're led by Madison Booker, whose average is 17 points, 6.0 rebounds, and 3.8 assists, and Jordan Lee is averaging 14.6 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 3 assists. Coming in at number five is LSU with a record of 6-0, and they're led by Malaysia Fuwali, who's averaging 17.7 points, 3.3 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and Fly J. Johnson, who's averaging 17.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. Coming at number six is Michigan with a record of 5-1, and they're led by Olivia Olson, who's averaging 16.7 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.9 assists, and Sila Swords, who's averaging 13.3 points, 6.0 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. Coming at number seven is Maryland with a record of 7-0, and they're led by Ulichi Okwamba, who's averaging 14.3 points, 5 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and Kylie Schmeichel, who's averaging 13.8 points, 4 rebounds, 1.6 assists. Coming in at number eight is TCU with a record of 6-0, and they're led by Marta Suarez, who's averaging 19 points, 6.7 rebounds, 2.8 assists, and Olivia Miles, who's averaging 18.3 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 7.5 assists per game. Coming in number nine is Oklahoma with a record of 5-1, and they're led by Regan Beers, who's averaging 17.8 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 1.2 assists, and Aaliyah Chazes, who's averaging 16.8 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. Coming in number 10 is Iowa State with a record of 7-0, and they're led by Audi Crooks, who's averaging 25.9 points, 6.1 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and Addie Brown, who's averaging 11.6 points, 9.9 rebounds, and 5.9 assists. Coming in at number 11 is Iowa with a record of 6-0, and they're led by Ava Hayden, who's averaging 15.7 points, 9 rebounds, and 1 assist, and Chazazi Wright, who's averaging 12.6 points, 1.6 rebounds, and 4.8 assists. If you're loving the content, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Coming in at number 12 is North Carolina with a record of 5-1, and they're led by Sierra Toomey, who's averaging 12.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 1.8 assists, and India Navarre, who's averaging 11.8 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 2.7 assists. Coming at number 13 is Ole Miss with a record of 4-0, and they're led by Cody McMahon, who's averaging 19.8 points, 7.0 rebounds, and 2 assists, and Christian Owali, who's averaging 16.2 points, 9 rebounds, and 1.6 assists. Coming in number 14 is Tennessee with a record of 5-1, and they're led by Talijah Cooper, who's averaging 16.2 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 4 assists, and Janai Barker, who's averaging 15.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 1.2 assists. Coming in number 15 is Baylor with a record of 5-1, and they're led by Talia Scott, who's averaging 24.7 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 3.6 assists, and Bella Fontenot, who's averaging 15.4 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 0.9 assists. Coming in number 16 is Kentucky with a record of 7-0, and they're led by Clara Strack, who's averaging 15.9 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 2 assists, and Tony Morgan, who's averaging 12.3 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 8.8 assists. And coming in number 17 is Vanderbilt with a record of 6-0, and they're led by Michaela Blakes, who's averaging 23.5 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, and Sasha Washington, who's averaging 10.8 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 1.2 assists. Coming in at number 18 is USC with a record of 3-2, and they're led by Jazzy Davison, who's averaging 16 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 3.8 assists, and London Jones, who's averaging 11.8 points, 2 rebounds, and 2.2 assists per game. Coming in at number 19 is Notre Dame with a record of 4-1, and they're led by Hannah Hidalgo, who's averaging 27 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 4.7 assists, and Cassandra Prosper, who's averaging 15.2 points, 5.2 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and Michigan State, who's averaging who has a record of 6-0, is led by Grace Vance Lucen, who's averaging 16.7 points, 5 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and Kennedy Blair, who's averaging 12.5 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 6.3 assists. And coming in at number 21 is West Virginia with a record of 6-1, and led by Gia Cask, who's averaging 6.1 points, 1.6 rebounds, and 1.7 assists, and Sydney Shaw, who's averaging 14.1 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. Coming in at number 22 is Washington with a record of 5-0, and they're led by Sylvia Sellers, who's averaging 17.8 points, 2.3 rebounds, and 4 assists, and Avery Howell, who's averaging 10.8 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 1.7 assists. Coming in at number 23 is Louisville with a record of 4-2, and they're led by Tawana Roberts, who's averaging 15.3 points, 1.3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, and Lori Ziegler, who's averaging 14.7 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 2 assists. Coming in number 24 is Oklahoma State with a record of 5-1, and they're led by Misha Gray, who's averaging 16.3 points, 1.6 rebounds, and 3.3 assists, and Halasia Timmer, who's averaging 15.4 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 2.4 assists. And last but not least is North Carolina State, who has a record of 3-3, and they're led by Camille Pierre, who has 13.3 points, 10.8 rebounds, 1.7 assists, and Zoe Brooks, who's averaging 13 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. For all your amateur news and your women basketball content, subscribe to Formula Park 1 on YouTube. Thank you for your support.